Welcome to the IROAD Teaching and Learning Conference. My name is Catherine Myers, and I will be your host for this session. I'm excited to introduce, is there a correlation between early intervention for plagiarism and subsequent performance? Presented by Karen Bakuzonis, Nina Bell, and Michelle Cranney, who are all associate professors at Ashford University. The chat window will be open during the session for your questions and comments, as well as a short Q&A at the close of the session. Now, without further ado, Karen, Nina, and Michelle.
Hi, this is Karen Bakuzonis. Nina Bell and I are coming to you from Chicago. We were attending the APHA conference. If I could have the next slide, please. So this may seem like a strange slide to show. When you're a faculty member and you are grading papers, one of the worst things is to see a very high similarity score. And one day we were lamenting the number of students who plagiarize and just how often it occurs. We wondered when plagiarism started for the students in their career. And when you start a study like this, it sort of is like Pandora's box. You're not quite sure what you're going to uncover. And some things you may like, and there may be some things that you wish you had not discovered. Due to the limitation of time, we're going to hit the highlights from the key literature, the methodology, and the statistical information. And there are some things we're just going to leave out due to the amount of time that we have. We do have some poll questions. So the first poll question is, how often do you, and when you are a faculty member, generate a Turnitin report for written assignments? And the poll question should be coming up. So far we're seeing always, most of the time, half the time, hardly ever are the options. So if you could please make your selection. And the poll results are 41.6% always, 33 most of the time, 16.66 half the time, and 8.3 hardly ever. Michelle, I'll give it to you.
Okay. While doing our literature review, we learned that plagiarism occurs almost equally in both online and traditional school settings. Some individuals believed that plagiarism occurred more often in an online environment because the students felt a disconnect from their instructors. Others believed that it didn't matter whether students went to school online or face-to-face because they plagiarized simply because information was easy for them to obtain. Commonly, educational institutions subscribe to a service called Turnitin, such as we do here at Ashford, to help faculty members identify and research assignments that were submitted and suspected of plagiarism. Turnitin has 4 levels that they put their similarity scores in, and those are shown here on the screen. The first level is no plagiarism, and then there's low, medium, or high levels of concern. Next slide, please. When it comes to who is responsible for plagiarism, there's multiple players. One research study indicated that more than 75% of students willingly admitted to plagiarizing simply because they are lazy. Another indicated, or actually it's the same research study, but other students indicated that they were either unwilling or unable to produce a quality, unique paper because they lacked the skills and understanding that they needed in order to do that. And the remainder of students plagiarized because they were able to get away with it. Another group of people responsible for plagiarism is faculty. Many faculty members don't check students' paper for plagiarism, And when they do, they either don't know what to do when they find a plagiarized paper, or they choose to do nothing at all. Some faculty members attempt to teach students about what they did wrong, but if there's another offense by that student, there often is not any consequences. The university itself plays a part in plagiarism. Typically, there's more of an emphasis on students getting good grades than on the learning that takes place itself. There's commonly a lack of solid policies and procedures that are established for handling plagiarism that is identified. Both of these points lead to a culture that accepts plagiarism. Next slide, please. In our study, we chose to collect data on 10 students who had plagiarized in 300 or 400 level classes within the College of Health, Human Services, and Science. Each of these students had a major in the department that was either healthcare administration and information management, so within that department or the Department of Health Promotion. In total, we reviewed 625 assignments. Of those assignments, we were able to gather information from within eCollege that included course information, turn-in details, and teachable moments. And we also reached out to IROAD on these 10 students to get details on plagiarism that occurred and their information about the plagiarism that occurred. Nina?
Thanks, Michelle. Now I'm going to move into the results area. What you're seeing on the slide here is just basically the descriptives and the frequency distribution. So to give you an idea of our population, we had 10 students. 80% of those, or 8, were female and 2 were males, which basically does reflect our student population as a whole. We do have more females than males. Again, enrolled in the College of Health, Human Services, and Science only. And then the course reviews were between May of 2011 all the way through just a couple months ago, September of 2015. As you can see, the number of faculty percentage-wise of the distribution of those assignments, 511 were associate faculty, and only 114 of those assignments were graded and reviewed by full-timers. Also, 37% of the classes had Turnitin integrated, because if you recall, the Turnitin was not integrated until about 2013. So prior to that, the courses had not had that Turnitin integration with Waypoint. And then as you can see, some of the other statistics we have here, the TII scores that were over 25, which was 445 of those 625 assignments, and then what assignments were given zeros, reduction in grades, or returned to IROAD. Results continued, though. Now, taking a look back at what Michelle had talked about in the similarity score distribution as Turnitin identifies the categories, we had 39% of the 625 assignments fall into the high scale. In other words, the plagiarism score was 70% or above. But what we did as a study is we divided it into 5 different categories, and that's what you see below. We have an extremely high scale, medium scale, low scale, and of course legitimate. So what we were looking at was anything over 25%. So the medium high and extreme high is the category we're looking at. And if you look at the frequency here, most of the assignments that we reviewed, 206 of them, were in the extreme high scale, which meant they were at 76% or above. Next slide. So our research questions, and we had 3 that we looked at. When does plagiarism of course assignments begin in a student's college experience? These are our students, the 10 students, lettered A through J. As you can see from the above chart, plagiarism starts early. In 5 of the cases, 50%, plagiarism occurred on the very first assignment ever submitted to Ashford University. The longest period before plagiarism started was student D, who copied on his 5th submitted assignment. Now the pie chart at the top probably displays this a little clearer. 50% plagiarized on their very first assignment at Ashford. And then their second assignment was a large chunk there, and then the 5th assignment was the last portion of that. Second research question asks, what action by an instructor is taken when plagiarism is identified? So for question 2, we return to the frequency distribution chart to see what actions were taken. The options are teachable moments, a 0 score, reduction in grade, or reports to IROAD. As mentioned before, 445 of the 625 assignments had a similarity score of greater than 25. That was our set point. Of those, 7% were given teachable moments, 8.6% earned 0, 3.4% received a grade reduction on that assignment, and just 3.8% were reported to IROAD. The rest of those papers, nothing was done. So the majority of the faculty simply scored the paper as an original work, either not running the Turn-In report or opting to ignore the similarity score, or perhaps not knowing what to do with the similarity score. It's important to note that only 24 of the 445 papers with a similarity score greater than 25 were actually reported through the university's academic integrity office. So let's do another poll. So do you believe that after a teachable moment or confirmation of an incident of academic dishonesty will prevent a student from committing plagiarism again? So just type in yes or no. No. I see we're moving pretty good here. Looks like the grand majority of us are saying that no, a teachable moment or confirmation of academic dishonesty doesn't prevent future plagiarism. Okay, let's move forward and see what the results of our study say. Question 3, if a teachable moment is documented, what is the impact on future behavior relative to plagiarism? As you guessed, 8 of the 10 students studied received teachable moments. Of those 8 students, only 2 showed lower Turn-In scores after the teachable moment. But that was not statistically significant, according to the non-parametric Mann-Whitney U-test that we used. The other 6 students showed either higher or the same Turn-In scores after the teachable moment, and only 1 student, our student D, showed higher similarity scores after a teachable moment that was statistically significant. So conclusion, as you all have agreed in the poll, teachable moments do not have a statistically significant impact on future behavior related to plagiarism. Michelle.
Thank you, Nina. In addition to the findings that Nina outlined, we discovered several other interesting points that we want to tell you about. Both full-time and associate faculty members ran the Turn-In report more often once it was integrated into Waypoint. But regardless of whether or not Turn-In was integrated into Waypoint, full-time faculty ran the Turn-In report far more than associate faculty did. There were 2 students in our study that completed English 121 and 125, the courses where there's an emphasis and a lot of learning on APA. They completed those courses after they took their 300 and 400 level classes, or at least some of their 300 and 400 level classes. Full-time faculty are more likely to report incidents of plagiarism to IROAD, and there's a bar graph here on your screen that indicates it's nearly double. Students who had documented concerns as to why they couldn't submit their assignments on time seem to document almost those exact same concerns in pretty much every single course through their entire college career here at Ashford. And there were 5 courses where every single assignment submitted by all 10 of our students in the study had plagiarized. And so those 5 classes were Accounting Concepts for Healthcare Professionals, Introduction to Healthcare Education, Healthcare Planning and Evaluation, Special Populations, and Analysis in Health Research. Next slide. Next slide, please. There are a lot of elements that impact plagiarism, and we have touched on some of them today. They stem from why plagiarism occurs to the individuals and the organizations that are responsible and play a part in plagiarism. We're certain that we're just beginning to learn and that things are going to change and evolve as time goes on, but we'd like to now talk about what we can do now to begin making a change.
This is Karen. Culture does not change because we desire it to change. culture changes when the organization is transformed. And so at this point, we have our recommendations. One, acknowledgement of Turnitin similarity scores. When the students submit their assignment, they note the similarity score on the title page. That way we know they're looking at it. They have an idea if they're at 50%. And two, that the faculty, either in the comment section or on the file itself, make a note of it. For me, I say submit it on time and what the similarity score is. This also reinforces to the student that I am checking similarity scores. So if they think I'm not going to notice, they're going to be soon disappointed. Second, required non-synchronous in-service and limited to 30 minutes for all faculty on what is plagiarism, how to use Turnitin, how to note the similarity score for all appropriate written assignments, what to do if plagiarism is identified, and the IROAD process. We have found with our associate faculty and even some of the full-time faculty, they don't know the whole process. And I think if we, as a group, we train them how to do it and what it is, we will have a higher identification of plagiarism. Our third recommendation is required non-synchronous training for all students on what is plagiarism, how to use Turnitin, how to note the similarity score for all appropriate written assignments, and the consequences of plagiarism and the IROAD process. Poll question number 3. After listening to this presentation, will you check the Turnitin similarity score in your future courses? Well, I think we have a pretty good indication that you have a better understanding just how pervasive our plagiarism issues are here at Ashford University. And it's not just Ashford University. I think this is something that if you teach at other facilities on campus or online, we have to give credit to our university for allowing us to do this study and to share the results and not just sweep it under the covers. We care about this. We care about it as a culture. We care about it as our reputation. And this is the beginning. There are several other research studies that are underway talking about this very topic, and we actually have some additional information we can share for another presentation. At this time, we'd like to open up the chat box for questions and comments.
Thank you, Karen, Nina, and Michelle. So as I mentioned, the chat box is open. Please type your questions in. And I see lots of people are trying to type. This was a wonderful presentation and something that is very much needed.
For those only on the phone, Sue commented very enlightening and some great best practices that we can start using now. Maureen, would you also recommend that the yearly associate faculty evaluations include the use of Turnitin by those faculty? I think that's a great suggestion. We have noticed with some of our faculty that they were not doing it, and it took me several months to get that faculty member into the habit of checking.
I see Dr. Frost made a comment about recycling work. It depends on it. It's not actual recycling, I think, that you're talking about. However, if they're referring to a previous paper that they have used in a new assignment, different class, so you're right, they do need to reference that. And the unfortunate thing is I don't know if any of the classes actually teach that. So another thing that we could easily add to our plagiarism suggestion for teaching both students and faculty about how to do that. It's a great idea.
Judy, I asked, what does change plagiarism behavior? Did you find anything that does work? Personally, I think that if the students, if you set the standard high and let the student know it is not acceptable, and they can keep asking and say, oh, it's okay and whatever, if you're very firm and say less than 20 to 25% or whatever percentage you want, the student rises to the occasion.
And Margie, I see your question. Do you think the teacher moment would be more effective if we tracked it in a formal tracking system. It would depend on how that tracking system works. If every faculty member, associate, and full-time had access to that, and they could go and check to see if the student has had a teachable moment or 2 teachable moments, then we can make a determination as to, okay, no, you've already had like 6 teachable moments. It's time to turn it into IROAD. Honestly, after doing this study and seeing the teachable moments that were in the classroom, I'm not sure that that's a workable thing. I would like to try it. Terry asked it would be great to give a similarity score in the rubric. I know it means redoing all the rubrics, but I think you're right. I think that's a major, even if it's a small point. They have told me Ashford has a policy that allows them to use their previous work, making it sound like I can't do anything about what I have. There was a recent change in the recycling and reusage policy. It came out effective October 29th. At the last Senate meeting, there was a discussion regarding what it really means and the implementation of some of the other follow-up factors. There is a subgroup the Senate is forming to further discuss this, so stay tuned for some more information.
Yeah, I see Lisa made a great comment here about the teachable moments not being effective because of our culture. I completely agree with that, and that was our whole point with the Pandora's box and the concept that we talked about later in the presentation with the Wordle, where we need to change the culture both from the students, the faculty, and the university angle to really make sure that students, faculty, and the university understand that plagiarism is not appropriate at the college level. So I completely agree with that. Laura Wolf asked, at what level of plagiarism do you follow an IROAD? What do you mean by follow? I'm assuming you mean do you turn in an IROAD. I file an IROAD. I have filed an IROAD as low as 30 because I look at the report and it could just be one massive block right in the middle of the paper. Or that 30% could be the references. So it really depends on what they are plagiarizing as to when I turn it in.
Lisa Johnson has an opinion. Teachable moments are not effective due to our course culture of silo experiences. Michelle Roucher said, we addressed this in the PC meeting this week. In my current course, I have 80% of students who had over 50% turn it in. I will share with you that one of the students in this study happened to be in one of my courses. The individual plagiarized 4 out of the 5 weeks.
Oh, Dr. Frost, that's actually an interesting point. I think the system should be set up that a paper is not allowed to be posted until it meets a certain percentage. That would be a nice idea to include. We'll add that to our prospective recommendations. I see there's a lot of comments. We're down to 1 minute, and I know we have a final slide to talk about.
We're trying to go through as many as we can. Sorry if we missed something.
I agree with Suzanne Pone's comment about not using recycled papers. That's a topic that's currently under debate, so hang tight. I do know that that is being reviewed. I know we're down to 38 seconds, and I know Karen has some final comments to make, so I think we'll just take a look at the chat box questions and hopefully get back to you privately.
So if you remember your Greek mythology, the remaining item in Pandora's box was hope. And we have hope that with a culture change, we can make a difference. Before we end, I also want to extend a thank you to Michelle's uncle, Bill Workman, for his assistance in some of the data analysis. The findings of this study really put the 3 of us in a bad mood. We were so disappointed in what we were finding. And we really had to talk ourselves up because it was so sad to see that level. And we are at 20, well, we're out of time, I think.
Thank you all so much, Karen Bakuzonis, Nina Bell, and Michelle Cranney for your presentation. Thank all of you, our participants, for joining with us and being patient with our technical difficulties that we've had. Please know that this presentation will be available for viewing in the CEDL soon, and we will send you out an email when the live sessions are available. Also, please don't forget to go to the TLC app and rate this session, and use the link that is now being posted in this chat box for a quick end-of-session survey. And also, please be on the lookout for an end-of-conference survey to provide more in-depth feedback. Thank you all again very much, and have a great day.